Welcome back to the table, friends. I'm your humble host, Gray DM. So with me, as always, is Owen.
Hi there.
So, Owen, who
Yeah.
have you brought to the table today with you?
I have brought an assassin to kill you.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
But the spice must flow.
But the spice must flow. I have brought a Lasombra.
Oh, very interesting. The Clan of Shadows.
Yes, the Clan of Shadows. And someone very gifted in their arts. Today, I'm going to talk about Lucita de Aragon. And I hope I said that right.
Probably.
Probably.
Which makes a lot more sense when it's not necessary. Anyway, yeah.
Hey,
let's dive
I
into
could screw
this topic.
stuff up. I could screw stuff up.
Hey, we all can. I've proven that.
Lucita de Aragon stands as one of Vampire the Masquerade's most iconic anti-heroes, a Lasombra aristocrat turned assassin who went from dutiful daughter to rebel and eventually to reluctant prophet. A fan favorite since the 1990s, Lucita's story is rich with metaplot intrigue, royal blood in life. Lasombra's signature characters in Unlife, Sabbat defectors, Anarch ally, and even a vessel for Malkavian prophecy. Her narrative spans centuries and editions, reflecting shifting storytelling priorities. So today, we'll explore Lucita's biography, her key affiliations and transformations, the major events and the figures intertwined with her fate, and what her enduring popularity says about gender archetypes in games. So, Lucita's mortal life set the stage for her lifelong defiance of authority. Born in 1170 CE, so she's been around, as the illegitimate daughter of King Alfonso II of Aragon. She grew up a pampered noble in medieval Spain, yet privilege came with a price. Lucita chafed under familial duty. She had a willful independent streak from the start, so much so that she dreamed of patricide and repeatedly ran away from court. Each attempt at escape saw royal guards drag her back to face her father's wrath, and each time King Alfonso simply sent her to confession rather than punish her directly. This would prove a fateful decision. In confession, young Lucita's confessor was Ambrosio Luis Moncada, a scheming Catholic bishop, and secretly an elder of Clan Lasombra. Moncada sensed the indomitable will in Lucita and was entranced by her fierce independence, and disturbingly by lust as well. Seeing both political advantage and personal desire, Moncada decided to embrace the king's daughter, bringing her into undeath in 1190. Lucita was now a Cainite, a vampire, specifically of Clan Lasombra, the shadow-manipulating masterminds destined to found the Sabbat sect. Her embrace did not tame her spirit, however. If anything, it intensified the power struggle with her new father figure. Lucita's early years as a vampire were marked by conflict with her sire, very similar to her conflict with her mortal father. Moncada had hoped to shape the young Lasombra into a loyal protege to benefit their clan's influence. Indeed, Lucita played the part of a dutiful child for a time, acting as a diplomat in Lasombra politics and even as the hidden power behind the throne of her mortal brother, King Pedro II. But nobility and courtly life did not satisfy her. Lucita yearned for freedom and found it not in palaces or churches, but on the open road, far from Moncada's reach. During the Dark Ages, Lucita became a wanderer and a warrior. She trained relentlessly in the arts of combat, honing a preternatural speed and grace that made her deadly even to elder vampires. Wielding a tenebration, the Lasombra's command of darkness, alongside her sword, she earned a reputation to rival the Assamite assassins in ferocity. This martial path was encouraged by an unlikely companion, Anatole, a Malkavian monk and visionary whom Lucita met in her travels early on. Anatole was a prophet of Gehenna, plagued by apocalyptic visions, and he inspired in Lucita a genuine spiritual curiosity that Moncada's hypocrisy never could. Together, the Lasombra Knight and the Malkavian seer roamed Europe, balancing on the edge of faith and heresy. Lucita initially saw herself as Anatole's protector, but she absorbed his esoteric knowledge along the way. This unlikely friendship kindled Lucida's own interest in kindred history and prophecy, planting seeds that would bear strange fruit centuries later. By the end of the medieval era, she was not only a feared duelist, but also a scholar of vampiric lore in her own right. As the centuries turned and the anarch revolt of the late 15th century gave birth to the modern sects, Lucita faced a defining choice. The Camarilla was formed by elders to enforce the masquerade, while the rebel vampires coalesced with Lasombra leadership into the fanatical Sabbat. Moncada and Clan Lasombra were core founders of the Sabbat's doctrine, but Lucita wanted no part of either establishment. In a hallmark display of independence, she abstained from both sects when they arose. Throughout the following centuries, Lucita lived as an autarchis, essentially clan loyal but sect neutral, and became known as one of the most feared Lasombra antitribu in the world. That is a weird word. Antitribu were Lasombra who rejected the Sabbat, and Lucita was legendary among them, a Lasombra who stalked her own kind.
Wow.
Her hostility towards her clan was personal as well as philosophical. Lucita saw the Lasombra leaders as arrogant monsters lacking true nobility, pale shadows of the virtues they claimed to uphold. During these years, Lucita's skills as an assassin for hire came to the forefront. Unmoored from the sect allegiances, she offered her services as a freelance contract killer, often targeting Sabbat figures and other high-value marks. To manage her contracts, Lucita even employed a ghoul secretary, Willa Genenstall, as a go-between and handler for clients. Her efficiency and lethality earned respect from unexpected quarters. The Camarilla, eternal enemy of the Sabbatkin, cautiously valued Lucita's talents. She operated occasionally as an archon, a sort of enforcer for the Camarilla in the 18th and 19th centuries. Though not formally a member of the Camarilla, she preferred them over the Sabbat and proved a useful, if unpredictable, ally in the fight against Sabbat incursions. By the modern nights, her reputation as a warrior willing to defend the Camarilla from Sabbat threats had won her many allies and plenty of enemies on all sides. Scholars and princes alike came to seek Lucita's counsel, not only for her skill with a blade, but for her keen insight into vampiric politics and prophecy. She was often consulted to interpret Anatole's incomprehensible utterances, translating the mad Malkavian's doomsaying into actionable knowledge. This role, interpreter of prophecy, hinted that Lucita was more than just a sword arm. She bridged the mythical and the pragmatic in a way few vampires of her clan did. Amid her bloody work, Lucita's personal life was colorful, if often perilous. She is frequently characterized as a femme fatale, having entranced or bedded several prominent kindred, yet this label can be misleading. While Lucita is undeniably beautiful and has leveraged seduction as one tool in her arsenal, hedonism never defined her character. Passionate liaisons tended to arise from mutual respect rather than manipulation. For instance, Lucita maintained a long, intermittent romance with Fatima el-Faqid, an elite Assamite assassin.
Mm-hmm.
On paper, the Lasombra and the Banu Hakim, or the Assamites, should be dire enemies, but Lucita and Fatima understood each other as fellow warriors and free agents. Lucita also had a turbulent tryst with Jean Pietroun, a high-ranking Ventru Ancilla. It ended so poorly that Jan spitefully referred to Lucita as a glorified prostitute in the Encyclopedia Vampirica, betraying the sexist contempt of an elder whose pride had been wounded. Such comments say more about Jean than Lucita. Despite the femme fatale mystique, Lucita's identity was never reduced to whom she seduced. She remained fundamentally an independent actor driven by principle and self-determination, not a vampy seductress defined by male gaze. In fact, many who met her learned the hard way that Lucita's loyalty or love could not be bought or controlled. By the late 20th century, Lucita had cemented a near legendary status. She counted among her close companions the famous Nada scholar Beckett and, of course, Anatole, the Malkavian prophet. This trio, Beckett the historian, Anatole the visionary, and Lucita the pragmatic knight, were often at the forefront of investigating Gehenna prophecies and occult threats in the final nights. In the Camarilla's Children of the Night collection, Lucita is depicted as arguably one of the most knowledgeable elders about the coming apocalypse, second only to Beckett and Anatole in Gehenna scholarship. She even contributed as an author to the Encyclopedia Vampirica, a comprehensive kindred reference sheet, a testament to her intellect. All of this is to say, by the turn of the millennium, Lucita de Aragon was feared as a killer, respected as a thinker, and beloved as a folk heroine among players of the game. Few NPCs encapsulate so many facets of the world of darkness, which made it all the more shocking when, as the metaplot barreled towards its climax, Lucita seemingly betrayed everything she once stood for. If there is a central antagonist in Lucita's personal saga, it is her sire, Cardinal Mancada. For centuries, Lucita defined herself in opposition to Mancada's will. In the 1990s VTM novels and sourcebooks, this conflict reached its bloody resolution. Mancada had become a cardinal of the Sabbat, based in Madrid, a nearly untouchable elder. Lucita, the prodigal child, was one of the few who dared contemplate his destruction. In 1998's clan novel Assamite, the simmering plot comes to a head. Lucita and Fatima el-Faqid join forces to assault Mancada in his fortress monastery. In a spectacular assassination, Mancada is finally slain. Lucita helped kill her own sire in a bid for freedom from his shadow. This was a cathartic moment for her. She believed that with Mancada's final death, at last she would have peace. Yet, poignantly, it hasn't brought peace at all. Killing her tyrant sire removed a weight from Lucita's unlife, but also a pillar of her identity. For so long, her every move was calculated to spite or thwart Mancada's plans. Now that he was gone, Lucita felt an unexpected hollowness. She hadn't fully grasped the extent which her existence was a series of negatives. Without Mancada's oppressive presence, her purpose suddenly felt jumbled and uncertain. This is where Lucita's story takes a twist that some fans found controversial. Rather than rejoice in liberation, Lucita slid into a kind of existential crisis after Mancada's death. In a move few anticipated, she gravitated toward the very legacy she had rebelled against. Clan Lasombra came calling. With Mancada gone, a power vacuum opened in the Sabbat. Many Lasombra, even those outside the sect, felt kinship pulling them back. Lucita ultimately chose to join the Sabbat and claim Mancada's former domain for herself. By the early 2000s metaplot, Lucita had become the Sabbat Archbishop of Madrid and later Archbishop of Aragon Zaragoza as well. In essence, she stepped into her sire's role, the very shadow of Madrid she once fought. To do so, Lucita abandoned her humanity, her human moral code, and adopted the path of night, Mancada's old Sabbat ideology of divine darkness. With guidance from an elder Lasombra priest, she was indoctrinated into viewing vampiric evil as God's will, much as Mancada had. To her old friends, this felt like a tragic fall. Beckett and Fatima both tried to convince Lucita that by joining the Sabbat, she was betraying her own hard-won identity, an utter betrayal of herself. But Lucita saw things differently. In her eyes, Mancada's demise changed the game board. With him gone, perhaps she thought she could reform the Sabbat from within, or use its power for her own ends. Or perhaps, as some subtext implies, Lucita was simply tired. Tired of fighting a war on all fronts, tired of being a pawn in Gehenna prophecy. Embracing her sire's mantle was almost a way to exorcise his ghost, to prove that she could control the legacy that once controlled her. Yet stepping into Mancada's shoes meant steeping herself in darkness that even Lucita might not master. The ensuing years saw Lucita as a Sabbat leader, coordinating war parties and sect policies rather than acting as a lone wolf. She presided over bloody Sabbat rites like the Festivio dello Estino in Spain, rubbing shoulders with monsters such as Cardinal Sasha's Vikos. The independent huntress became a general in the Sword of Cain. Still, hints of the old Lucita shone through the cracks. In secret, she sometimes donned disguises to visit Camarilla and Anarch domains, listening to neonates and elders alike in search of new purpose. It seems even as an archbishop, Lucita couldn't help but question and observe from the shadows, rather than fully drinking the Sabbat Kool-Aid. Indeed, in the Beckett's Jihad diary, we learn that Lucita did begin to have doubts about the Sabbat's direction. The Sabbat prepared for a Gehenna crusade, a fanatical march against the ancients in the Middle East, and many elders were mysteriously beckoned away. In this chaos, Lucita's role grew uncertain. The diary confirms Lucita has joined the Sabbat and even notes her participation in high-level plots, but it also sows doubt about her fate as the final nights accelerate. In V5 lore, the Lasombra clan as a whole negotiates entry into the Camarilla, offering up their Sabbat leaders as penance. Rumor has it that in Madrid, an impersonator has taken Lucita's position as archbishop, possibly as a sacrificial lamb, and that someone bearing her name still nominally leads the Sabbat there. In other words, it's unclear whether Lucita is truly in charge or if she slipped away and let a double face the consequences of the clan's defeat. This ambiguity is likely intentional, preserving Lucita's mystique and survival for future stories. What is clear is that by modern nights, Lucita's priorities have shifted profoundly. The once fiercely independent Antitribu became, for a time, an architect of Sabbat violence, only to possibly engineer her own exit when the sex nihilism went too far. This arc is a commentary on how VTM's storyline evolved. The metaplot dragged even loners like Lucita into grand sex conflicts and apocalyptic showdowns, for better or worse. And it's here that Lucita's story takes on a quasi-mythical turn, blending into prophecy and legend in a way that reflects changes in the game itself. One of the most intriguing and debated aspects of Lucita's later lore is her connection to Malkavian prophecy, essentially stepping into the role of a seer, which is unusual for a Lasombra. To unpack this, we must return to Anatole, her longtime Malkavian comrade. Anatole was the signature Malkavian character, known as the Prophet of Gehenna for his vivid visions of end times. In the early final nights, Anatole met a dramatic end. He sacrificed his physical form in New York City, letting his body be absorbed by an eldritch cathedral of flesh, while projecting his consciousness into the Madness Network, the telepathic web linking all Malkavians. In doing so, he cheated final death in a way, becoming a sort of disembodied prophetic presence. This bizarre event had ripple effects, with Anatole effectively everywhere and nowhere. His vision still needed a voice among the living. Enter Lucita. Lucita had long acted as Anatole's anchor and interpreter. It was often she who translated his mad ramblings into strategy and kept him somewhat tethered to reality. After Anatole's transcendence, some stories imply that pieces of Anatole's insight passed to Lucita, almost if by virtue of their bond, she inherited aspects of his prophetic gift. For example, in one published storyteller scenario, Lucita experiences Sabbat ritual where she tastes the blood of Malkavian Antitribu, and it is quite similar to that of her ally Anatole, the Malkavian prophet. The suggestion is eerie that Anatole's essence, through the Malkavian blood web, might be influencing events and Lucita even after his death. In V5, this concept is reinforced by lore sheets describing how elder Malkavians can back up their consciousness into others. If Anatole managed to do such a feat, one could imagine Lucita as a prime candidate to receive those echoes, willing or not. By V20, which acted as a bridge to V5, Lucita was already being depicted as quasi-prophetic. A write-up from that era notes that scholars of kindred history seek out Lucita for interpretations of Anatole's visions, treating her as a sort of oracle for Gehenna lore. She had become one of the foremost authorities of the final nights alongside Beckett and Anatole, and in one non-canonical finale, Lucita experiences a truly transcendent moment. When a demonic abyssal entity tries to drag her soul into oblivion, Anatole's spirit appears and carries Lucita's soul to safety beyond the veil. In that ending, Lucita effectively dies, but is saved from the Lasombra antediluvian's jaws by Anatole's intervention, implying her soul finds some peace. While that particular outcome is an alternate timeline, it's symbolically rich. Anatole guiding Lucita to the other side as if passing on the torch of prophecy. In the current canon, Lucita is very much not confirmed dead or gone. However, she has stepped down from the world stage, at least temporarily. A striking quote attributed to her, speaking to her old friend Micah Vikos, captures Lucita's weariness with being a pawn of destiny. Let them drop their jaws in wonder, Micah. Let them call me a traitor. I am sick of playing the game the world has set before me. The time has come for Lucita to do what she should have done centuries ago. I must step down from the world stage. I am no longer a figure. I am one Canaanite attending to her own matters. This powerful statement from the Time of Judgment era reads like Lucita rejecting the grand narrative imposed on her, a meta commentary perhaps on Masquerade's epic metaplot. In stepping off the stage, Lucita seeks to reclaim her personal agency outside the Crusades and prophecies. Yet, ironically, stepping away in this fashion is exactly what sets her up to be a wildcard prophet figure in the new era. With the Sabbat in shambles by V5, Lucita may now be free to chart her own course, informed by all she's seen, and she has seen so very much: the best and the worst sex, the burdens of lineage, the truth of Gehenna's approach. Should she reappear, Lucita could well serve as a Malkavian-like prophet, not by clan but by circumstance, a vampire elder bearing grim wisdom and perhaps haunted by Anatole's echo. In a sense, she embodies the union of Lasombra and Malkavian archetypes, the calculating shadow warrior and the inspired mad oracle. The blending reflects Masquerade's penchant for evolving its iconic characters to keep up with an unfolding, darkening world. It's also a bold reimagining of a female character who started as a rogue assassin and has become something far more enigmatic.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I thought she was a very interesting character. I actually, hot take, but I like her character more than I like Beckett, and I think it was more interesting, but,
I'd like to know more about her. There's a couple kind of issues. It seems like a lot of her story is basically her not at the whim, but like at the agency of a guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Whether it's her father, her sire, and like her friend, or her confidant, like her seer. So like there's a little bit of like squeamishness there, but I mean, who doesn't like a dark gothic Latina girl?
Yeah, I mean, really.
The aesthetic is
hot-blooded.
Hot-blooded. It's interesting. I mean, VTM's got this weird thing. Like, you're talking about 1,000-year-old family.
Yes.
Like, I'm kind of surprised she's not crazier.
Mm-hmm. Like really, if you look at her compared to other elders, she seems rather grounded.
Yeah, like where she's like, no, like it's time for me to settle my affairs and to go deal with one kindred's whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, that sounds like a normal person, not a person who's got a freaking Malkavian in their head and they're running around for 1,000 years.
I mean, maybe that's part of it. Maybe the Malkavian part of her grounds the crazy that's already there a little bit.
It's amazing. Like the Malkavian is this like a weird cog, and it has to meet this other piece, and then it just turns into a normal person.
Yeah.
And you're like, I have complete control over myself. Yeah, Lasombra is an interesting clan because maybe you listeners have a different opinion about this, but like I think there's people who fall for one clan right off the bat.
Yeah.
And they just love that clan, the flavor, and they're like, they start making these statements of like, I am blank, I am a Ventru, I am a whatever, and they run with it. Then there are like the groups of people who generally fall upon certain clans. And they're like, we kind of like these more. These clans feel a little cliche, and that kind of that settling, that like civ, assortment, I think Lasombra tends to fall into a little bit of a cliche. Like, I want to have my goth phase. I want to have my spooky Addams Family.
Well, it's like these are the boogeymen. These are like you said, the goth. Whatever. And it's just like, well, here you have someone that completely embodies everything about that clan, but took it a different route.
Yeah, which is good. That's what you need. You need these other takes. Also explains why when you were calling her an Assamite earlier, like everything you said led to Lasombra, and I was just like, So before she got turned, she was in confession with an Assamite. There's another clan that does that.
I don't know. For some reason, I got Fatima in my head, and he's the Assamite, and I just kept calling her an Assamite when we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, but it just makes much more sense now that she's a Lasombra, and apparently a potent one.
Yes.
And there must have been a whole bunch of people in the Camarilla who were like, she did what?
Yeah.
She's running with the Sabbat now? What?
Yeah.
That's not good, you know? Yeah. So many weird little parts of it. Very interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Hopefully people find it more interesting than Theo Bell.
Well, so we're kind of, I mean, not intentionally, but we're kind of going through these archetypes or like these big named people in various clans.
Yeah.
And I think Beckett is probably more popular than the Gangrel in general.
Yes.
So the Gangrel run into a problem where they and the Bruja are like the two cliche physical parts of the core group.
Yep.
And the Gangrel have the feral side of that, and the Bruja have the like noble warrior kind of side of it. And as much as that's not 100% true, that's an opinion from the outside.
Yes.
It tends to pull a lot of people to the Bruja because people find a game like Vampire and they start thinking of themselves being a rebel rouser, more.
I'm an anarch. I want to fight against the control.
Yeah, the overlap between people who play Gangrel and people who play werewolves is probably pretty big.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So, like, I think that it kind of makes sense that people probably sided with Beckett. With Theo, the Bruja are probably more popular than him.
Yeah.
Because more people would then go to that clan, and like you have a lot of famous Bruja. You have people in the game like Nines Rodriguez. Yep. You have, basically the Highlander. What the heck was that dude?
Oh,
the freaking West Coast, Jeremy McNeil. Jeremy McNeil.
I remember.
He is the Highlander. So you have these like popular, kind of, well, definitely Tyler / Patricia. I mean, that's probably a big one. So you have these like kind of big, important kind of characters, and Theo is a very modern kind of like, this is a good example of a Bruja, but I think people just kind of like, we understand it so well that I'm just skipping past your token character and going into the clan themselves. Well, did you find it?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, with Lasombra, it's like, you have to like put that out there and like, you're like, okay, this is the Clan of Shadows. They have this weird thing with pirates and the sea. They're very Spanish and like old Spanish, like they're like basically went with the Sabbat, although now they've come over to the Camarilla.
Sold out all their elders to do it.
Awesome. Awesome move.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a list.
I know.
You're going to let me in that door because this list is super valuable. I think that's such a cool thing too. But yeah, so I think having someone that is person in the lore that you can kind of look over and you can see a kind of a twisted direction to go in and, kind of use it, be like, oh, that's kind of Lasombra that serves its purpose. It makes the world richer. And I'm sure she's a pretty good balance for sounds like the weird Beckett trifecta of people that he runs with. Yeah.
It's a character too that's really good if you do happen to use them in a campaign as someone that shows up. It's just like, no, you don't understand. I've seen both sides. I understand the whole thing. No one's good here. Everything's bad. You're just gonna have to live your life.
My hot take on it would be I would almost want to play her as the opposite of a Theo Bell.
Yeah.
Like Theo Bell's going to be a character that you're going to put in your campaign if you want to say, I want a political opinion to be thrust into the situation and I want stuff to happen. She's almost like, I want you to uncover a vampire that's on vacation and really doesn't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
And you're like, but so much. And everybody's like, have you heard this? We shouldn't talk to her. We don't want her to know us.
Right. Right.
Nothing's going to go good. Let her go be on her little trip here and like go through, Spanish Harlem and be like having a good time and like leave.
Just let her go.
Like, by telling the sheriff she's here, we might start a war. Get him.
Well, it's the type of situation where it's just like, yeah, she's here. They're just like, okay, cool. Everyone stay inside until she leaves.
Exactly. Like,
it's like, we just don't want to mess with this.
Could we facilitate your exploration as a tourist of our city and facilitate your
exit?
Yeah, one of my first class tickets out of here. By all means, here's my credit card. Just leave.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay. I think it's interesting. Well, got any more to say about our Mommy Adams family sets?
Our Morticia
I keep
Adams?
thinking like Morticia and like Morticia Black Widow, you know?
I mean, that's a combination, all right.
Like, I once met a man, but he tragically died, so I was taken to the Red Room and trained. The whole reverse roses, you know, and she drops all the heads and then throws all the thorns.
Right.
Jeez. That's awesome.
All right. Yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, see you guys later.
See you next time.